Car design through the years can be likened to the ocean. There's always an ebb and flow, high points and lows. For Volvo, it's gone from stately and anonymous to stunningly pretty cars like the P1800, famously driven by Roger Moore in the hit TV show The Saints. Then came the boxes on wheels, which solidified Volvo's image as an old person's car, and then back to elegant but slightly anonymous again. Finally, it's come full circle, and with the new platform cars like the XC90, V90, S90 and the XC60, Volvos are back to being stunning. And nothing drives that point home more than the all-new S60. Obviously, there's a lot of the larger S90 in the design, but the proportions are sportier, and this easily sits on the road prettier than anything else in its class. The details are just right, from the long hood to the athletic shoulder line and the crisp haunches. It's also longer than anything else, with the longest wheelbase compared to rivals like the BMW 3 Series or the Mercedes-Benz C-Class. I spent a good amount of time just staring at it, and it's certainly the mid-size luxury sedan to have if looks rank right at the top of your shopping list. Of course, the S60 isn't just nice to look at or to sit in, it's actually nice behind the wheel as well. Not entirely surprising for a Volvo, but it's a very different experience to other Volvos that we've tried in the past, and that's mainly down to its slightly sportier setup. In fact, I'd go as far as to say that this X60 is the best driving Volvo I've ever had my hands on, with the exception of the previous gen S60 Polestar, but that was meant to be a sporty model. This one's supposed to be a comfortable do-it-all luxury sedan, and it gets the balance, I think, just right. Of course, this 2-litre turbo petrol engine has pretty modest outputs, about 190 PS and 300 Newton meters of torque. We couldn't get close to its claimed 0 to 100 time, and honestly, that was a little bit disappointing. But in the real world, as long as you're being judicious with the use of the throttle, you won't be disappointed. As always, a set of paddle shifters would have just made the whole thing a lot sweeter. Because the whole experience of just slotting the gear stick into manual and then resting your hand on the armrest to get to it, there's not enough space for it to feel completely natural. We've driven this engine in other Volvos before, and it sounds a lot more refined and a lot quieter here in the S60, which just goes to show that the NVH package is quite well sorted as well. I just love the way this car seems to balance itself in the corners. There's not a lot of body roll, there's not a lot of lean, but it's still keeping things comfortable. In fact, the suspension only lets things filter through into the cabin, such as the sharp joints on expressways and maybe a little bit of the edge of a pothole right there, but it's pretty serene in here otherwise. And if you're wondering if it'll scrape over speed breakers, we didn't come across a hump large enough, but as always, it's better to be safe and take it slow. The only thing that lets it down just a little bit is the fact that the steering feels quite vague and lifeless. So you don't really know what your front tires are doing, but the balance of this car is so good. And there's so much mechanical grip that you can actually just lean on the tires, let the car take a set when you come to a corner, and you won't be wanting for grip. It doesn't push in or understeer. It feels most unlike a front-wheel drive car, in fact. Our braking test also showed less than stellar numbers, but our test car was brand new. Braking performance should go up when the brakes have bedded properly, though the feel and modulation from them did suggest more than adequate stopping power, even if they're not the sharpest anchors around. While something like the BMW 3 Series actually puts you a lot more in connection with the car, just down to the steering, I really like the way that the S60 handles itself around a set of twisties. In a lot of ways, the S60 actually feels like it's a very, very livable width midpoint between the 3 Series and the C-Class. Since Volvo's gone petrol only, this 2-litre engine will be the only engine on offer in the S60, at least until the age of electrification comes to India properly. I hear good things about the S60's hybrid plug-in powertrain, and if a bit of electrification just gives this car a little bit more oomph, I think Volvo would really have a winning package on their hands. And we haven't even got to the beautifully crafted interiors yet. Another place where the S60 seems a cut above the competition with 3 interior color options and 2 wood trim options. The layout, design and materials seem lifted straight off the bigger, more expensive Volvos. In fact, the equipment list seems padded enough to take on cars from a segment above. It includes standard active safety tech that could definitely come in useful on our roads. Not just that, the longer wheelbase does mean there's a lot of space in the rear too. There's quite a bit here in the back seat. AC vents at eye level. 4-zone AC, so each of us back here gets a split AC, and these seats are pretty much bucket seats, but that does mean the middle seat passenger would have a slightly harder backrest, though it does have an adjustable headrest. So far, the S60 seems like it'll be great for both the self-driven and the chauffeur-driven. Someone who enjoys driving and appreciates the comfort of a great rear seat, both needs are well taken care of in this Volvo. The only potential downside is its relaxed performance. But if you're not a pedal-to-metal kind of driver, it'll prove to be smooth and well up to the task. And while I am exactly that type of driver, the S60 still lulled me into working up to a quick pace rather than going all out, instantly making for a calmer drive. Which, when you think about it, is the S60's most endearing characteristic.